from BrainSell. We'll get started in just a minute here, allowing people to log on just for another minute. A housekeeping note, if you do have questions during this webinar, please feel free to put them in the questions box in the GoToWebinar interface. So again, we'll start in just a couple of minutes. Thank you for joining. Thank you very much for attending our webinar on 7 steps to creating a lead generation machine, brought to you by BrainSell. I am Sonia, President and Account Executive here at BrainSell, and I'm joined by Devin Pearson, Business Development Manager and also a Certified Predictable Revenue Coach. Devin, are you there?
I am, Sonia. How are you?
Great. Thank you for joining. And this is going to be a great webinar where we go through our growth process here at BrainSell and how we handle lead generation and qualification. And we want to just share the wealth and make sure that people understand there is a process and a very pointed way to grow your business. So that goes along with our mission. Our mission at BrainSell is to help grow businesses and transform them with technology and great tactics. And that's exactly what we're going over today. We are based in the Boston area. We have locations all around the country, and we really focus on process before technology. We've also grown about 30% year over year for the past 8 years. And by the way, we've not grown our team every year by 30% either. We've grown a lot without having to invest in human capital. And that's exactly what we're covering today. So I'm going to start us off, and this will be pretty pointed and brief. Just some slides here, some images of exactly the systems that we're using and how we're doing this. It's going to be very interactive, Devin and I talking about the process and how we've implemented things internally. So to start us off, the old way of doing things. And maybe this is how your business is operating today, but you might just have salespeople that are doing it all. They're doing your lead qualification. They're doing as many touches as they can remember to do to leads that come in from contact us forms, cold calling, you name it, trade show lists, and it results in a giant mess. We were doing this 8 years ago, 6 years ago, until we smartened up. It was too much. Sales reps, who are extremely valuable assets here because we tend to be kind of architects of CRM systems and complex solutions. Well, we were spinning our wheels trying to call Joe Schmo, who has a Gmail address that we don't even know if he really exists. And that's a horrible waste of a high earner sales engineer type person should not be spinning their wheels trying to get Joe Schmo on a webinar or on a demo. So that was the old way, doing it all. It was not growth ready. We maxed out very quickly because we're, again, from lead generation to writing proposals, closing sales, and taking care of customers. There's only so many hours in a day. 18 hours wasn't enough. It just wasn't. There is a better way. Our new way, yeah, we divide and conquer. It doesn't have to be all on one person from start to finish. And this is the exact process that Devin's going to step us through. And thank goodness for Devin. Thank goodness for Predictable Revenue. This is a book that we picked up, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago. We picked this book up. And it completely transformed the way that we were thinking. It completely transformed the way that we saw a sales organization and what it should be. So we hired Devin, and we locked him in a conference room for 6 weeks. Not really.
Yes, you did.
I'm not really kidding. So Devin spent about 6 weeks in that conference room, and he learned a lot. So Dev, I'd like to hand over the next few slides to you and walk us through what this book architected for BrainSell and how you did it.
Yeah, thank you, Sonia. So, like Sonia said, I was brought in after an extensive background in business operations and customer service, and literally handed the book And the first thing I really learned was that it talked about specializing roles. So going back to the one person doing everything from lead gen all the way through sales, all the way through account management, it highlighted the fact that you need to have an assembly line selling approach. So outbound focused efforts and inbound focused efforts, and then customer service focused efforts. So those are the three legs that holds up the stool being the account executives. So the biggest takeaway immediately that I had from predictable revenue that I knew was going to make the largest impact was following the old way that Ford came up and did things, which was the assembly line. So, you have this three-legged stool. What are the three legs? You have an outbound team, an inbound team, and then a customer success farming team. And the functions of those teams is to stay pointed in outbound lead generation efforts, and from an inbound, you do your digital marketing, your SEO, and the entire point of those people are to take the heavy load off the salespeople to qualify people that you're speaking to and walk them through the vision of the sell all the way through to transferring of the relationship. So again, the outbound team member, we're going to talk more about all the different steps here, but let's go to the next slide. So we'll talk about the ideal client profile. So the first step for an outbound lead generation is to define your ideal client profile. And what I found was that a lot of the time we were casting too big of a net, where we should be using a spear, and the spear is going directly after the profile that you'd like to sell into. So this is pretty vanilla stuff, right? So number of employees, the revenue, geographic area, and the type of business, and that's really the B2B. And then there's the prospect profile. So within those company profiles, then it's the people that you want to speak to. So decision-making ability, pain points, budget. And that really outlines the first step of these 7 steps, is to define the ideal client profile, the ideal customer and prospect profile that you want to do outbound spear efforts to guide them through a compel with content strategy. So what does that look like? So an outbound SDR strategy, once you have developed your ideal client profile, again, you don't want to be spam emailing. You want to be able to go after very specific people that meet that profile. So how that works is, this is called a Deep Dive 25 in the Predictable Revenue Program. So you look at 5 new companies per week that you'd like to sell into that make that ideal profile. At each one of those companies, you choose 5 people, makes up with 25 new contacts per week. And then you compel with content. And we're going to get into what compel with content means. So it's a strategy that allows people to walk themselves through the lead cycle, the lead life cycle, which is typically being unaware of your product or service to aware, right? So you do that with content, whether it's an ebook or whether it's a comparison guide or whether it's a data sheet or a cut sheet or a one sheet or whatever's specific to your industry. There are steps throughout this process that are going to help bring people through that buying life cycle of a prospect. So typically unaware to aware, and then from aware to interested, and that's another piece of content, brings them to the next cycle. Then interested to evaluating, and evaluating to purchase. And by the way, it's the days of writing these long drafted emails that nobody's going to read, those days are really over. Much like when you hit a website, if you're not getting everything that you need at the very top of that website before the fold, they call it, you're not going to scroll down. So you want to be able to capture the buyer's attention as short and sweet as possible. 3 sentences, a clear call to action. They call it the squint test. If you can back up and from 5 feet away, squint your eyes, and if you can still see your call to action, that means that somebody's going to click on it. So short emails and then spidering into a company, and that's why you choose 25 new contacts at 5 companies. You might call Joe, and Joe might not be available. Being a good outbound rep, you're not going to give up. You're going to go to the next person. You're going to find that basement window, and you'll find a way in to the company because they're your ideal client. And then comes the hot transfer, right? So after you have done the work to identify your ideal customer profile, you have sent them short outbound emails with a compel with content strategy, then you're able to get on the phone and do what you do, have a conversation with people. And I think that that's the most, one of the most important things about outbound lead generation. It should be as educational as possible, and it should, you shouldn't always be the hard close. When the time is right to bring in somebody like a Sonia, that's where the assembly line selling approach has taken place. So as an outbound lead generator, you are making the relationship, qualifying the person, making sure that there's a good fit. Once you've identified that, it goes to a warm transfer. And what does the warm transfer look like? A conference call. I don't ever leave it up to our sales team to follow up with a lead that I generate. And I think we're going to get into that more, but it's more of a conference call, transfer of relationship, away you go.
Yeah, and a little more on that, Dev. It's very unusual that you call into a company and you get someone who's pretty educated on the offerings, and you also get immediacy, which is, hey, I have Kevin sitting right here, and he has clients that have done exactly what you're trying to do. Do you just have another 5 minutes? Can I just get him on the phone right now? That's literally how it goes here, and my God, is that valuable. It's so valuable to have, to have that immediacy, and people love it. They love it.
Yeah, and to expand on that, Sonia, too, is that because these prospects that you're targeting are part of your ideal client profile, you don't have to support this with any fluff. You're going to be able to speak intelligently about their industry because you've helped like people in their industry scale their businesses in the past. So there's no fluff here. There's really no hidden secrets. It's taking what you're good at and using that to your advantage to have qualified, good conversations with like business people that can benefit from your product or service.
Yep, and it goes across verticals. So I always use it like it's not just a B2B play. We're looking at a new heating system for my house right now, my husband and I use this metaphor all the time. But it's tough, and we've not had one great company. But guess what? The one person who we're probably going to go with, they're the person who really spent the time to educate us on the different types of heating systems, on what would be good for us. They didn't just give us a quote and walk away. We trust them. We trust that they're knowledgeable in that industry, and we've got a real sense of, okay, they know what they're talking about. I'm going to go back to them because this is such a commoditized market in almost every industry right now. You can Google and find 50 other people that do exactly what you do. Why is someone going to go with you? What's your value? And from heating systems to software, I know the product, and I can really help you out with this. And I'm going to gain your trust. And it's not all about closing the deal and making money. And we really mean that. We really do believe that. So we do have a good, great question here that's very topical. Any tips for identifying contacts and getting contact information? We're going to talk about that. So that's a great question. But this is going to be in one of our next slides. Dev, you've played around with a lot of tools out there.
I found a lot that worked, and I found a lot that didn't.
Yeah,
and we'll get into it.
We will. And another overarching whole point of this thing is don't give up. I mean, we didn't, I think what did it take us, Dev? 6-9 months? Really?
Yeah, I would say, after the initial 6 weeks of really grasping the process, it took, and you can't even use the word perfected because just like you said, it's going to be fluid, and you can't give up if something doesn't work. But when you find things that do, it took us, I want to say, about 6 months before we really started to see a major increase of leads come in.
Yep, agreed. So don't give up and try new things. Test everything.
Right. So I talked a lot about the outbound strategy because that is really what my life has been now for the past 3 years or so, and so I want to hand it back to you, Sonia, to talk more about the inbound MDR strategy, because this was your life for the longest time.
Yeah, it was. And when I came on 8 years ago, there was this thing called inbound marketing, and it was just starting, and it's how we all bought, and I hopped on right away. And that did skyrocket our lead gen, and then we realized that we had no one to handle the volume of leads. It's a great problem to have, and a lot of people are doing it now. So you've got to try some different tactics. It's not as easy as it was before, but you've got to have a good targeted outbound strategy that Devin just ran us through. You've got to have a good inbound strategy as well. So of course it's going to depend on your business and what you're doing, but if you're in kind of a commoditized market of sales software, like generally what we do, you've got to be providing value on the internet. You've got to be found, and there's so many different ways to do that. And we're going to get into tools and what we use in a couple slides here. We'll actually show you the tools that we use, but blogging, everyone's always like, why am I going to blog? What is that? That's silly. No, it's not silly. It's a huge Google spidering and SEO add-in for you that's can be completely free and a great low cost spend in your budget there. So blogging is providing valuable content to people who will find you organically online by Googling stuff. We could do a whole other webinar on this. But
yeah, and we should, because it's so important.
It really is, and it's forever changing. I mean, talk about agile and fluid. This is just everything. Your approach should change about every 6 months with inbound marketing, at least, if not more. Ebooks and forums. So don't just blog for the sake of blogging. You've got to blog about something that you think your ideal customer profile, those people, are searching for. What are they Googling for? Are they Googling for top, let's take the heating system thing. I was Googling, most efficient heating system, most efficient HVAC system. There's some really savvy HVAC guys out there, and they came up, and they have all these great articles, but none of them had ebooks. None of them. And that means that I was reading all that information for completely free, anonymously. They didn't know who I was, and they couldn't capture my information. So unless I called them or filled out a contact us form that had nothing to do with their blog, they weren't ever going to know who I was. So they gave me awesome free information. Thank you, HVAC companies from around the country, but they don't know who I am. There are ways to capture that information. Again, maybe we'll do a follow-up webinar on that, but I'll show you the tools we use. So the blog should be, you're educating someone, and by the way, we have this great ebook that goes into massive detail on this topic. Why don't you download it? That's a lead. That's an inbound lead. That's free for you guys. Free. We've got blog articles and ebooks up there from 5 years ago that people are still downloading, and that took me, this employee here, so it was just a regular employee salary, took me 2-3 hours to make. That thing is still producing leads. Webinars, what we're doing right now, yeah, we're educating you guys, but we also know who you are now. so in complete transparency, we're probably going to call you, but these are great trust building exercises, educational opportunities where we're giving valuable content where we really care, and you should be doing this to your client base or your prospect base. The 3-minute rule, it used to be the 5-minute rule, and we've changed that.
Yep.
You really need to get on the phone when someone that downloads an asset from your site. You should get an alert via email, and one of your sales reps, your MDR, marketing development rep, should be calling within 3 minutes. Again, it used to be 5, but we find that 3 is way better. That shows that you're incredibly responsive. We're selling software, so people are always really happy when we call within 3 minutes because they're like, oh, that's cool, it's technology. Maybe if you're selling HVAC systems, maybe wait 5 or 6. But no one really gets mad at us for calling so quickly. They're more happy that someone cares. And then, of course, nurture these guys with compelling content, too. Just like your outbound spears nurture, your inbound spears should nurture, too, and they're automated systems that will do this. So not just one follow-up from MailChimp saying, thanks for downloading that thing, good luck. Maybe you drop them into a behavioral nurture campaign using an automation system, and that can drip someone through the process of educating them further so that they are educated enough to buy.
right? And one little thing I will add here is that with your inbound nurture programs, your inbound strategy, that's a little different, right? Because if you follow the compel with content, again, bringing somebody from unaware to aware, aware to interested, interested to evaluating, evaluating to purchase, they've already become by themselves unaware to aware, right? So you have to start that nurture program off at a different step because you're bringing them again, and it's a shorter cycle, right? So when somebody comes in, those are the warm leads that you're getting, and you've earned those leads through your thought leadership, your ebooks, your blogging. So not only are you reacting to them faster, but because you're reacting to them fast and you're giving them content that meets them halfway, because chances are they're already halfway to purchase, no matter what the product or service is. So you have to start that relationship off on a different foot than you would with an outbound strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, this is the net. You're going to get what you get. Just like when you dip a net in that water, you're going to get you're going to get some minnows, you're going to get maybe a bass and some octopus. You don't know what you're going to get. It's not your ideal customer profile probably. You're going to get a bunch of people out on the internet downloading stuff. So this can't be the only thing you do. It can't be. It needs to be the targeted approach so that you're spearing and you're getting those ideal customers that's what Devin's doing. But this is still low-hanging fruit. And I'll tell you, I closed one of the biggest deals about 5 years ago from someone downloading an ebook from us. We would have completely never known that they were around, but they were searching. It was a long-tail keyword, and they downloaded an ebook. We called them, and bang, huge deal. So that's just a lucky one. But then on the same point, you might get some little onesie-twosies out there. You're going to have to get good at disqualifying. But you're going to get a net approach. You're going to get a bunch of stuff and see what you get. And why not? Take it. We've also found that hiring these people is much easier because you can get, you're not cold calling, first of all. You're really not cold calling at all. But these people are, you've got maybe a freshy kid out of college who's real driven to make money and talk to people. And this is a great position for them because they're calling people who are already interested. And it's pretty low-risk stuff. So this can be a position that you do hire a young kid that's super friendly and driven, and compensation model could be a whole nother webinar for us. But we're going to get into that a little bit. We compensate SDRs, sales development reps, and MDRs, marketing development reps, twice. So they have a base salary. It's pretty low because we have such an aggressive comp model on top of that. So there's so many different ways to get into good comp models to drive these employees, but we give them a spiff on transferring an opportunity to an account executive, and the account executive okaying that and saying, yeah, this was a good opportunity. You get the $30, $40, $50, depending on how big we think the deal is. And then they also get a percentage of the close. So we're going to get more into that. But they get a small percentage of the actual close of the deal. This keeps these guys incredibly driven to find tactics to attract larger opportunities so they can make more money. And if your SDRs and MDRs don't want to make money, then they don't deserve to be in that job because these guys can make a lot of money. So after MDR, SDR, account rep closes the deal.
Yeah. Here comes the third leg of the stool. So farming, customer happiness. So like I mentioned in the beginning, my background comes from an extensive background in customer service. And this kind of hits home to me is that keeping people happy and keeping them educated, and not only educating them, but allowing them to educate you back is it's going to help you scale faster than anything. And there's stats that support that. So we have just a couple here up on the screen. A probability of selling an existing customer, from bringing them from all the way from unaware through ready to buy, maybe 60 to 70, but probability of selling, probability of selling an existing customer, so going into your base, probably 60 or 70%, right? Probability of selling a new prospect, on average, the industry average is 5. It can go as high as 20. We are around 15. But it's so important to have a person that reaches out to your top customers, to all your customers if possible, every quarter just to check in, say hello, remind them that you're here to help them, educate them on anything new that's happening at your company, and then listen to anything cool that's happening at their company and become a trusted advisor. Cross-sell when it's appropriate, but really the idea of customer happy, customer check-in, farming, this is all about keeping people happy, building trust, and trust does equal referrals. So, find that champion at the company that you've been successful with and make them aware of all the cool things, again, that's happening at your company, and they will reciprocate, and then it'll become more of a conversation. It'll be friends and colleagues at that point, and you'll start learning way more about your ideal client profile. Our CEO here, Jim, always says 2 ears, 1 mouth, right? So the more that you listen, the more educated that you're going to become, and then you can react to being educated from your customer and be able to add more value to them, because now you're becoming an expert in their industry and helping them scale together as a team. And that's what it's really about.
Yeah, no, that's great stuff, Dev. And also for this role, by the way, their title is obviously not farmer, customer success, customer advocate, right? Anything like that. We've hired customer success managers that we've said basically, yeah, you do get comped on some upsells, but your main purpose is to check in, see how things are going, and it could be kind of an ugly job, because parts of it are, by the way, you might call someone and they're midway in an implementation and they're not happy for some reason. And so that person has a bit of a thick skin, but they're also kind of a mediator, because they're like, oh, don't shoot the customer success manager. I'm here as, I know you don't want to upset your account manager, or you don't want to upset the engineer, but I'm here to help. Like, I will solve this for you. And stepping away from making more money, this person ends up saving deals a lot of times, because they come in and like the client is always so nice that they don't want to say like, oh, Sonia's doing a terrible job, or yada yada. Like, this is an impartial party that sits there in the middle and just checks in and says, how are things going? And we have saved projects before with this. We all make mistakes, and sometimes the customer's not being heard correctly by the account manager, implementer, or whatever it is you do. So this is just a great kind of a bit of an insurance policy, where you're calling in and just seeing how they're doing, and maybe you can catch them and save them. And that's incredibly valuable. Also, I had a great example a few months ago of our customer success calling into one of my clients and hearing that they had a very trivial beef with the CRM solution, that it was hard to do this thing, for example. And she said, it sounds like there should be an easier way to do that. Let me talk to Sonia. I'll get back to you. So great rapport, right? She's listening. She cares. Awesome. Already two gold stars. Then she comes to me and says, oh, they're like really they have this pain. Is there some tool that whatever? And I'm like, yeah, it's tenfold. It happens to be a tool that we use. Oh, this is awesome. Great catch. I wouldn't have heard that in my conversations with them. They might not have opened up to me like that because they think I'm busy, or they think I'm just calling about the project, but they really opened up to the success manager, and not only are they happier now, but they did buy this other tool. So that is a win-win-win. and they are happy, and it all started with an innocent call saying, how are things going? So this is an incredibly valuable position, and I'm telling you, if you want to raise revenue now, like if you don't want to stand up the other two legs of the stool right now, if you came to me and said, I want to grow my business 20% over the next 6 months to December, I would tell you to hire a customer success manager, because these stats are true. It costs 5 times more to attract a new customer than keep an existing one, and it's 10 times easier to close an existing customer on new business. So if you're not already doing this, you need to.
And just to add one more stat there, this, like Sonia said, this sometimes uncovers unhappy. Even though the person's role is to be customer happy and keep people happy, there are some times that through calling into your customer base, there's going to be problems. If that problem goes unresolved, those people are going to turn around and tell 10 people about it. Now, it goes the other way. if you nurture your client base and you become a trusted advisor, they're going to go out and tell 20 people about it. So word of mouth, should drive a good chunk of your inbound business. Inbound for your MDR to triage. So keeping people happy is going to, like Sonia said, it's the fastest path to cash, really, if you don't want to invest in the three-legged stool. The farmer, the customer happy person, can keep the stool, the AE stool up by themselves.
Yep, absolutely. And referrals, that is like an old school. I used to think, oh, this is old school to call people up and say, hey, Jim, can you give me 2 referrals? And that is kind of old school. But guess what? When you solve that problem for someone, so I'm going to go back to my customer, say like, oh, I'm so happy that we could solve that for you. That's so great. There've got to be other friends or buddies that you have, right, that have the same problem. Like, can you think of any? There are cooler ways to say that after you've really delivered. And once you deliver, then people will be happy to give you the referral. If I save 50% on my heating costs and the job goes impeccably and they ask, for sure, I'm happy to refer out. But it's got to go well and they've got to care. So this is stuff that you probably know, but it's worked amazingly.
And one other thing to add here, not only is it the referral, and not only is it building the champion, but this is also for case studies, right?
Yeah.
Sally, we've helped you here solve your huge problem that you expressed to me. In return, would you mind if we do a quick case study? Then that turns into marketing collateral. You do some long tail SEO on it. You throw it up on your blog. You throw it up on your website. All of a sudden, 6 months from now, when people are experiencing the same issue, you're gonna come up on the Googles, and they're gonna come to you inbound, and the entire cycle starts over right to the MDR.
It's a beautiful thing. It is. Yeah, I love that. And also, if you have multiple things that you sell or multiple angles that you can work into a company, this is a great way to start building that customer database of contacts at that account, rather. So like, we sell accounting systems. A lot of our CRM customers don't know that. But when the customer success calls in, they say, oh, by the way, Nancy, who does your, like, what accounting system are you using? Oh, cool. Did you know that that can integrate? Or did you know that we do X, Y, Z? Can I talk to your accounting person? So this is, again, building that rapport to help the customer in other areas, if your business model, lends to that, of course. But it could. So don't let your leads fly away. What happens when you have all these leads? You've got all these leads. How do you keep salespeople accountable for closing deals? And there's actually a pretty interesting self-supporting method that we use internally here, and that is part of predictable revenue that can help you. So sales meetings, they sound trivial and boring, but they're not. They encourage collaboration, and they encourage accountability. So every Thursday, we meet as a team, and we have some virtual team members. So we do a go-to meeting. We show our CRM, and we go through top closing ops that are going to close that month, and we try to keep it under an hour. We go through them very quickly, and each account executive has their time where they go through. And in that list view in CRM, by the way, we have a created by. And the person who created the opportunity is the MDR or the SDR, who created the opportunity and transferred it over to the account executive. So we see who created the lead. That's great. We have those metrics too that we'll share with you after here. But I might be going through my deals, and Devin has on his dashboard all the leads he's created for me, or opportunities rather, and he says, oh, Sonia, that's great, but you didn't talk about XYZ company. How's that going? Ooh, he caught me. I'm behind on that one. I'm really sorry. Or they haven't responded. Can I give it back to you, Dev? Can you get them? They've really gone quiet. I need some help on this. I'm slammed. Because the comp model encourages this. Devin gets a percentage of the deal that I close. So he's always going to be on top of me for closing deals. It's self-supporting. And again, your salespeople, your MDR, SDR, account executives, they have to like money, or they're in the wrong profession. If they're not driven by revenue and making money, they need to do something different, because this model encourages people to make lots of money. and that's what you need, and that's what your ads can say when you're trying to hire people. Devin, anything else to add on the sales meeting?
Yeah, other than I love Thursdays, because like Sonia said, I can sit back and I have my list of opportunities that I have transferred for the week, and I can make sure that all of them are being addressed, that they're all being followed up on adequately, and where there's and help identify any holes. So again, it brings it back to the assembly line selling approach. If Sonia has reached back out to a prospect that I've already done a warm transfer to, and she hasn't been able to get them back on the phone or engaged in the meeting, or the next step never happened, she shouldn't waste her time chasing that down. That should come right back to me. And it's not that I'm going to get compensated twice for the qualification, but that's not the point. The point is that I'm freeing her time up to do what she does best. And it goes back to me doing what I do best, which is get people on the phone and make sure that they're a good fit. So, it's actually kind of fun. I take off my business development hat. I kind of throw on my sales manager hat, and I'm able every single week to make sure that not only are we chugging forward as a team and as a company, but if there's anything that I can help my account executives with, that I am able to aid them in keeping them focused and keeping them on point, and I go back to doing what I do.
Yep. Awesome. So much stress off the salesperson to not chase dead leads.
A ton.
It's great. It's great. So what do we use? Well, we use a bunch of tools, and we have the pleasure of using a lot of different things, and we've tried a lot of different things. And right now we're very pleased with the stack that we have right now, and they're all integrated. And I mean, how many people can say that, right? So yeah, what do we use? Well, list building. So Joel, your question on list building. God, we use a lot of different things. Hoovers, Inside View, Rain King is a bigger tool, much just like for technology companies, really technology-focused companies. We're trying a couple other things. We find that a lot of the data is pretty similar. A real targeted approach, though, would be like your deep dive 25 that Devin was talking about. I encourage you guys to, if you have, if your SDRs can pick a top 5, like companies that they love or that think would be a great fit for your product, pin those up on a Post-it note, and don't go into Hoovers. I mean, you could go into Hoovers to find them, but just go into LinkedIn and look who works at that company and call them.
Yeah, good point.
Like, go on Facebook and see what they like to do, and do that way. Like, you don't always have to go to a list to get qualified people. You can go on LinkedIn, Google, call in, find the right person. But for the big list, yeah, it's a Hoovers or Rain King kind of deal.
Yeah, and just to add a couple things there. So there are, Joel, I found that there are different platforms that are going to complement your ideal customer profile. So the first step is to understand where you want to go after specifically. And then from there, you are able to choose the right tool for you. So Hoovers in general is a good tool that will give you insight into industry. So as you're building out your profile, you can use a tool like Hoovers to help you build your compelling content, right? But then you can use a tool like Inside View, Lead 411, Rain King. But like Sonia said, LinkedIn is really a huge asset when you're just trying to identify if you're going after the right people. I also am active on Twitter, and even though it's just hashtags and it moves fast, if you follow using a tool like TweetDeck, if you follow the right hashtags or the right trending, then you're going to be a forward thinker, and you're going to be able to start writing compelling content that is edgy, and it brings people through that buying cycle really the way that capturing them midstream.
Yeah, and or you could use Axon instead of TweetDeck, or Hoover,
Yep.
Or Hootsuite. So act on. So things go from list to marketing automation. So marketing automation can hit on SDR and MDR. It's mostly an MDR's or marketing development's duty to have a marketing platform where they can send out emails, track people, behavior, nurture them, get them to webinars, get them to events. That's what we use. We use Acton. Telephony integration. We use Tenfold. This is an incredible, groundbreaking product. When we make outbound calls, first of all, you can click to dial. and a little screen pop happens that allows you to take notes, see the person's social profile right there, see what else you've done with them in the system or other people, and it automatically will create a held call record in the CRM. It doesn't have to just be Sugar. They also work with Salesforce and Dynamics and all the leaders. So that makes our sales teams really, really effective. We also get data from that. So we can see how many people are making calls, when they're making calls, when they're connecting. It gives us the data to make our sales team more effective. Then on CRM, we are one of Sugar's top partners. We use them. Our system is tweaked to completely fit this process, and it's simpler than you think it would be. We don't really have many workflows or no customizations to support this. It's all behavior-based, and some lead routing, but really incredibly basic stuff that we've done.
3 fields.
Yeah.
Just 3.
3 custom fields, that's it. Yeah, that's it. We could do another webinar on the exact stack, but this is the process. And then Click Data we use for BI. So we're able to take data from our accounting system, Excel sheets, Google Analytics, Act on, Sugar, and we're able to mash up gorgeous reports and dashboards that you can then use as your KPIs, which we're going to go into next. So again, this is the stack. Pretty simple, but tight integrations between all these products that, by the way, they're all out-of-the-box integrations. We haven't coded anything for these integrations to happen. No coding necessary. So learn how to fly this thing blind. You've got to be able to go on vacation. Devin's got to be able to take a day off, which he sometimes does. So that's right, this is a picture. And there's tenfold. So there are KPIs. There are tools that you can use to actually understand where you're at, deeper than the CRM, just the CRM can show you. So right here, we see a really cool KPI dashboard of performance over years, sales distribution, and we can split it up by region or by rep. This is stuff that you can kind of get in the CRM, but you're going to have to pull like 7 different reports, and that's a drag. So we use this tool where we can dynamically change reports and filters and see everything at a glance. So and this pulls in data, and it acts as its own data mart. So it hooks in with Sugar, Salesforce, QuickBooks, NetSuite, Google Analytics, like I said, Act on, you name it, and you can mash up reports. So think of, now you can see a dashboard of your revenue and how much you are up right here, what you are up in sales or down in sales, and how does that compare to your lead gen? How does that compare to customer retention, deals that are closing around the world? I mean, it's completely up to you what you want to see. So we need other things too. We need other KPIs that are coming straight from the CRM. So we personally here, we use a difference of, we use Click Data to mash up reports across different databases and see things all on one screen. This is an example of a Sugar dashboard that comes directly from Sugar. So this is just straight CRM reporting, and Devin has made a really incredibly valuable dashboard. So Dev, do you just want to walk us through quickly some of these overlying reports here, what they mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So again, this is all about lead generation. So you want to be able to measure your new inbound leads by source. So what's performing the best? Where do you have to pivot if things aren't working? You should be able to look at that and judge what your next month's strategy is going to be based on what's performing this month and last month. Total working by qualifiers, inbound and outbound. Again, I want to be able to sit back as a business development person and monitor the progress of my account executives. And if I see that somebody's overloaded or somebody's light, then I want to be able to make adjustments to make sure that my leads get round robined off easier. MQLs, marketing qualified leads, those are your inbound. Again, those are your blog contents, your webinars, your long tail SEO efforts, anything that's coming inbound that your MDR is going to be qualifying. SQL, sales qualified leads, outbound, cold call, cold email. Those are the ones that are going to be more of a targeted approach. Again, inbound is going to be your net, outbound is your spear. Then outbound automated programs for your spear techniques. who's in the current nurture program, and having some kind of a trigger that through behavior based on that nurture program, it then alerts you that whether it's a lead score or a click-through or whatever it is that you've made that threshold, being able to monitor that and know when to react. And then sales performance, including won lost, average deal size, and conversion rates. So this is pretty vanilla stuff, right? That the way a business scales is that you have to increase the amount of leads, you have to increase the average deal size, and you have to be able to convert more. So that's how you are going to be able to scale, is that you're giving valuable content, bringing people through their buying decision, getting bigger deals, more deals, better conversion, because your salespeople are left to sell, your qualifiers are qualifying. All of that together is going to make the company scale.
Awesome. That's great. And if you have a goal, we always encourage setting goals. If you have a goal, you can back into a number. So if you've got your average deal size, then you can back into a number of, okay, these are how many leads we have to create, and then we're going to qualify this many leads. Each lead is going to convert to this much, and now you can back into your growth goals as a company. So you need the data. So a very quick recap here on the 7 steps. You've got to define your specialization roles. You've got to have the MDR, SDR, account reps, any number of that depending on your size. You've got to define your ideal client profile. You've got to get insight into companies and contacts through list building and other tactics. Identify the right technology stack that works for you and that is not too manual, because this thing could take off and you don't want to have the wrong tools when it does. Compel with content. Yep, compel with content, qualify and transfer, and they're going to trust your company already. Keep those clients happy and educated with the customer success manager, and then get your metrics and fly that plane and go on vacation. So are you ready? Yeah, you knew it was coming. There's we can help, and we have the ability to help because we've been doing this for a long time. So I'm going to launch a poll right now. If you guys are interested in having a personalized walkthrough with Devin or one of our other coaches here to see where you are now and what you can do differently, let's take advantage of that. We will look at the marketing strategy, the technology stack that you have in place, your sales process, your people, how you compensate them, and also analytics. Analytics on, what are your benchmarks? Do you have them? Do you have the ability to get them? And there are tools, manual and paid, that will manage that. So we'll hang on the line for a bit more. If you do have questions, please put them in the questions box, and we're happy to help. But thank you very much for joining us today on this webinar. And Devin, thank you so much. This has been really useful, and I'm glad that we could finally get it together to share this magical process with others. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I hope to hear from some of you. And my email is wide open. So if I can help in any way with any of the questions or any of the points that anybody saw here today, just give me a call. We're here to help.
Yep, we are. And thank you, Devin. We also have online chat. So it's as easy as going to the website, and we'll chat with you. So that concludes it for today. Again, thank you, everyone, for joining. We will send a follow-up with the recording and some other things. So have a wonderful day. Thanks, Devin.
Thank you, Sonia.